head chef out there.
Yeah. Sri Lankan guy, no? What's his name?
Yes. What's his name?
Yeah, it's just not on top of my head. But
no, me neither. Let me see if I've got it.
Look, folks, I think we should start because you know, we've got a fair bit to get through, and it really and truly the numbers that we're getting looking at the recordings are far in excess of the numbers that actually log on, because I've tried Wednesdays, I've tried afternoons, I've tried evenings, and every time we get a different audience or a different number, because you know everybody's busy at different times, and I just cannot seem to get the numbers. But I just looked at the numbers a few minutes ago. As of about 10 minutes ago, we've had 402 people log on to either the resources or the videos over the last 4 weeks, which isn't bad. The YouTube numbers are around about 70, so you know that's pretty good. It seems that a lot of people sort of want to be involved, but they can't because of various responsibilities. They seem to sort of say okay, and then they, you know, I've had a number of emails come back saying fantastic, I just watched it and it was great. So I think the most important thing is for us to put the recording on of what the people's views are, and then you'll find that a lot of people will log in and look at and follow your thoughts, you know, at the time when they're able to. So if you don't mind, we'll start the process. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the thing is, you know, first of all, welcome Stephen Mercer, Scott Picket, Daniel Hiltbrunner, and of course, I don't know what's happened to Richard, but Richard's meant to be here. He rang me at 11:30, and as I said before, you know, we'll try and catch him up later on anyway. The question in this particular session, we've had 5 sessions so far. The question is, you know, how do you feel the pandemic will reshape food service operations in the future? What can the average person expect? What can the average restaurateur expect, or the average staff? How nervous are the staff, for instance, about the new normal restaurant situation? And it's from a personal point of view. You know, we don't have, shall we say, control or a power over legislation. So we have to follow that, but at least there are personal views, there are personal experiences that I think people can pass on that'll help. Just as a means of stimuli, you know, does this mean that fine dining will need 2 dual methods in the future, because we're having more and more restaurants who are outsourcing or delivering food? Will that mean there'll be 2 dual methods of production? That's one thing. Will home clients become even more comfortable with, you know, home deliveries, and will that have a propensity not to, you know, for people not to want to go out? Why should they, when it can be delivered with a home kit or a ready-made meal? You know, how is it affecting your bookings based on space? You know, my attitude in the past, being an old fart and from the old school, you know, put them in as quick as you can, get them out as quick as you can, and pack them in as close as you can, was the deal. The more you packed in, the better you did, the quicker you got rid of them, and also the more money you made. But now, of course, we are, you know, obviously very conscious of space between people. And you almost went to a restaurant in the past because you enjoyed the space, you know, and it was you know, it had a good feeling. But now it's going to be a fact of life. How are the front of house roles going to be affected? You know, your staff, they're the people who are going to be facing clients. You know, how comfortable are they without wearing a mask? Or if they do wear a mask, how comfortable is the client sitting there eating a dinner, and all of a sudden someone turns up with a mask? My God, I don't know how I'd handle it. What will happen about food kits? This is a big trend from what I read in Europe, and particularly in London. Food kits have really taken off. I think a couple of you guys are already into that, which I hope we'll hear a little bit about. But it seems to me that food kits is one of the big winners, and there's always opportunities in any crisis. So will the other side encourage cashless payments even more? Will we have single one only menus? Will we have disposable cutlery by even more? I mean, there's a contradiction there. More disposable cutlery means more plastic in the ocean. But we might save one issue and walk ourselves into another. What about the open kitchen? I mean, that makes me wonder. You know, I know a number of really good open kitchens, but there's no barriers, there's no plastic screens. What's going to happen to the open kitchen? How are the staff going to feel? Are they going to be comfortable? How are the guests going to feel? And do you think it'll, you know, affect the open kitchen? So those, you know, and lastly, but what are the opportunities do you see being available? So, you know, it's over to you to say what you want to say, and those are only stimuli questions. They're not necessarily to be addressed in particular order, or in or even if you just want to say your own thing. The order of presentation.
Is he really in chorus?
No, it's a backdrop. I can do that too, but it's a backdrp. But this is a famous chef, Scott Picket.
Someone's ringing. Someone's
So
talking
Google him.
He looks famous too.
No, Martin. No, I work with Martin.
Sarah, you're unmuted.
Athel's famous.
You know, I'll ask him Stephen to start, Picket second, Daniel third, and if Richard comes online, we'll ask him to finish off. So we'll hand over now to Stephen to, you know, give us your take on what you think the future normal will be. What's going to happen to the lovely industry that we all love and shared and have spent many years building a career. How is it going to change according to you?
Great, thanks, George. Firstly, thanks for the invite, and great to see you still working hard on the industry. You're an inspiration. Look, Mercer's a little bit of backstory on what we've been up to. Our last shift was the 24th of March, I think, third week of March when we were shut down. We went into a takeaway model the very next week with a home cooking kit, demonstration videos to show how to just finish the dishes off. They were pretty simple to finish. And I thought if we'd clean out a bit of stock out of the fridges doing it, it would be a good thing. But the response was just huge. Ever since, we've not been able to keep up. I can't get enough food and I can't produce enough food. The numbers have just been huge for us, which has been great. It's given us a great revenue stream. Takings are down, spending per head is lower, of course, but we've been in a pretty comfortable place considering. Kept my apprentices on in the kitchen, and percentage-wise, the takeaway model is, you know, it's more profitable than the restaurant. Turns out life's pretty good without waiters. It's been great. Now we're moving into a model where we reopen. We're reopening on Thursday, degustation only. And I suppose your options were to try and turn tables over to get some revenue or lock in a cost, which is what we've chosen to do. So we're doing tasting menu only, 6 courses in the restaurant. And initially we're doing just 4 shifts a week, Thursday to Saturday and Sunday lunch, as well as doing the takeaway. We'll see where the demand falls. Initially, right now, the demand is everywhere. The restaurant's booked out for a couple of weeks. The takeaway is just insatiable. Everybody wants it, which has just been great. So we'll continue to do the 2. If one of them slows down, we'll crank the other up. With our limited space in the kitchen, we probably can't meet the demand for both, which is a nice problem to have. Even now, going into a la carte, into the restaurant and takeaway, I think it's still not, we haven't settled into the new reality yet. I think we're getting a knee-jerk reaction to diners wanting to dine in. I think it will probably slow, particularly when we have all our seats available. Business is not going to turn back to what it was pre-COVID. I know we're seeing estimations of about a 25% loss in restaurants not reopening, which is a bit of a guess, of course. It's really hard to say where that's going to land. The industry could be in a healthier spot in a year's time because of the lesser number of venues out there. That's probably looking at it on a very positive viewpoint. And I think a lot of restaurants like us will continue to look at these other avenues of income. For us, the takeaway model looks to be sustainable in the near term at least. So I think the demand's going to stay there. We've got a lot of customers saying they're still not comfortable to dine out. They would still rather do it at home. They still want to celebrate their birthdays and anniversaries, and we've really pushed that end of the market to, get dressed up, set the table, turn the TV off, and have a special night. And that's been our angle of takeaway and our point of difference. I think in the future, of course, I don't want our staff to wear masks. I would rather they don't. I think that's going to scare people away a little more than encourage them. But of course, all of the social isolating, the distance between tables, the hand sanitizing, it just goes on and on. So there's a little more work there. But I'm confident that we've got a model that's flexible enough and we can pivot enough to make this work. I think it's going to be much harder for restaurants in the CBD. The fact that we're in the suburbs, the fact that we had such a good following, have regular customers, very loyal customers, the fact that we're in the burbs has all played to our advantage, and we've been there 23 years to build that following, and it's all really paid dividends over the last few weeks. That's my take on it. Who knows where we'll be a year from now. The run to Christmas is going to be interesting. I feel like we might reopen fully. If there's a gap between being able to open fully and JobKeeper, I think that's the time we're going to see real carnage. It's easy enough to operate when your wages are being paid for by the government, but that's got to stop at some point, and that's when we're really going to see what happens into the future.
Right, thank you. It's interesting. I've got a couple of questions afterwards for you already. Scott, now what's your, how have you handled it, and what have you done, and what do you see the opportunities across you've got a large number of different operations at different levels too. So
yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, George. And again, sort of welcome to everybody. Thanks for hosting us today, George. Great initiative as always. Always good to talk and to listen to Steve. Lots of similarities between our businesses and where Steve is, I suppose, from what he said. We kind of looked at them all individually on their own merits. And so the deli at the airport, obviously that was shut down very, very quickly. That's with sort of Delaware North, but that just, the airport's dried up, they stopped. And so that one's just in a holding pattern now, whether that be for a month more or 2 months or 6 months. It'll be sort of dictated by sort of international and a bit of the domestic travel. Chadstone at the hotel there, that kind of went a little bit longer, but then, they were really concerned about that and about hotel guests, and that just wasn't viable. So we just shut that down. That reopened on Friday. Matilda and Estelle went the whole way through, and Lupo, we kind of wanted to keep that going, but we really didn't have the manpower to manage and adapt sort of 3 venues in that sense. So we sort of focused on Estelle and on Matilda really. And I wanted to, to really try to keep as many of the staff employed as we could. So, a smaller team at Lupo, they just sort of came into the others really. It's funny what Steve was saying earlier about the sort of suburbs and where things are and the difference in the demographics and the location and the time. We were lucky. We adapted. We started the takeaway on the Thursday before lockdown. So we were already in. We'd been working on that sort of 2 weeks prior. So our back end was all ready to go through sort of hungry. And then on the last 4 days, we were doing tasting menu, a la carte, pick up and delivery from Estelle. So there were 4 crazy days. But then we shifted very quickly to the sort of takeaway pickup model at Estelle. And that went extremely well for us, actually, pretty much all the way through till Mother's Day. And then we saw the sort of drop off for the 2 or 3 weeks, when the sort of novelty wore off a little bit. People were aware that restaurants were sort of reopening. It was still solid, but there were nights there in the midst of it where we were doing twice as much revenue as we'd normally do with me and 3 guys in the kitchen and 2 waiters, So from that respect, it was great. And I think we're sort of similar to Steve in that sense that sort of Estelle being in the burbs, we've been here almost 10 years, a great local following, the sense of community really came out and really, really supported us. Matilda, on the other hand, is a slightly little bit different. Not as much community support, unfortunately, whether it's because we're a newer restaurant, whether there's more competition, we're only just sort of 18 months in, different demographic, different side of the river, I hate to say it. especially this being recorded and, you know, might be thrown around south of the river in sort of future videos. But really interesting to see the way that different people sort of reacted, different clusters of people, different areas of people. And so whilst it was still good, it was probably only half the revenue that sort of Estelle was sort of taking during that time. But then we sort of adapted when we could to doing brunch takeaway about sort of 6 or 7 weeks ago, which was something that we hadn't done before. So we sort of got a coffee guy in and sort of brunches and wood-fired quiches and sort of bacon and egg buddies and things that we never would have normally done before. And that's what the market wanted. And then on Saturdays, Sundays down there at Matilda at the park, it absolutely went gangbusters, like crazy. So, you know, lots to learn about what we can do as a business, what the market wants. You know, Estelle's sort of continuing to do the takeaway now, which is going really well. We launched Providore last week in association with Shane Dillier, and that's going pretty well as well too. But the Matilda takeaways dropped off a little bit. So that'll just focus on the sort of restaurant side itself. And then even looking at, you know, when we open for lunches, when we don't for dinners, reworking the business model, the costs, you know, the margins, where things are at, you know, minimizing the team's hours, you know, restructuring of all contracts into, you know, where we can have some casuals or full-timers. We might bring some back as part-timers on, you know, what the exit strategy is now out of COVID for the next month, 3 months, 6 months as to how we sort of bring people back up. You know, we didn't lose. We've got like about 150 full-time staff between the venues, aside from Chadston and the Deli where they were stood down and qualified for JobKeeper. The rest, every other single person in Matilda, Estelle and Lupo, like were employed in some capacity. So whether that be at 40%, 60%, 80%, which was great. And then a little bit of carnage with the casuals, but we tried to help them where we could. I mean, even the, you know, waiters that qualified for JobKeeper were coming in. And I was spending time in the kitchen, you know, what I mean, peeling carrots, peeling potatoes, doing the dishes, you know, packing takeaway containers. So we took the view that we would remain open, you know, to literally keep feeding people, whether that was, you know, feeding the locals, you know, driving cash flow to feed, you know, the suppliers and the staff and keeping, you know, food in people's mouths and keep going. So we had a big, you know, team meeting and we said, okay, these are the guidelines with JobKeeper and stuff, but either we're all on board as a team and we all help out, or like, I'm not going to do it. So, you know, every single team member, to their credit, actually was on board, put their hand up. And I said, it doesn't matter whether you're front of house, back of house, a really great time to cross train, but also to, you know, really bridge that divide between front and back of house, and we reskill and spend time. So you got waiters that are doing jobs that they've never done before that they really, really enjoyed. And then they build up that rapport with the kitchen and they understand what sort of goes on behind the scenes as well too. So that was a great thing for us. You know, the back end from a, you know, logistics nightmare, really, sort of, you know, to understand the changes changing every week with payroll, with hours, with JobKeeper, with ensuring that we're, you know, we're doing the right thing by, you know, the government, the employees' needs, where they are, keeping our nose completely clean so that, like, you know, people aren't working too much or not enough, and finding that balance was, you know, that was probably one of the hardest things, is ensuring that, right, so now you know, depending on your level and where you are, whether you're 30 hours or 26 or 12 or whatever, that kind of stuff, just to ensure that we were compliant. So that was a big learning curve in what the next phase could be of that as well too, just to manage that. And I think through that has come where we've started to manage sort of efficiencies in the business, where we've looked for, you know, that we're not too proud to put food in a takeaway container anymore, and to just focus on the restaurants and the revenue that we can drive through the, you know, chairs and tables, but to look at it as a business. Now, I know that chefs and restaurateurs months for all of us, which has been, you know, whilst it's been fucking hard and crazy, it's been enjoyable in many senses as well too, to look at things from a different perspective.
Good, thank you very, very much, Scott. I'm sorry, but Telstra decided to cut me out there with I had a close down, so I had to panic and I switched to another computer. That's the way it is. Okay, Richard, thank you for coming on. You were there a minute ago. What's happened? Oh, there you are. You are there.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, technology is the most out of me.
After Daniel, because Daniel's on next. He's going to tell us what his take is, what he thinks is the future in the food service industry, and what he's doing for, you know, his operation. And he's, you know, how he's responding to the challenges. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, and hello to everyone. Nice to see again some familiar faces from Melbourne.
Hello.
And thank you for inviting me for this panel as well, George. Very much appreciated. Look, for us, it has been quite a challenging time. My wife and me, we took over a little restaurant in the vineyards here in the country close to Canberra. And we almost done a year. We survived the year. So I think we have big challenges, of course, with the, first of all, with the drought, then the fire, then the smoke, then the hail, and things start to look okay. And then obviously we had to have the shutdown because of the virus. So it has been extremely challenging. As well for us, obviously we're not eligible for any support as we're not a 12 months year-old business, and obviously with the staff. We are a very small operation, more or less. I call it always a ma and pa. So in the kitchen, and I have one or two cooks helping me, and the same thing with my wife in front of house, and she has also one or two staff to help her out. We are a 4-day operation, so we open from Friday till Monday, and so that's also a little bit of challenge. For us, as I said, it had some positives and negatives. Obviously, when you're a small operation and a very young business, the good thing is for us, obviously, is our cost. We could obviously, because of my wife and me, so the salaries of staff was not a very big drama to deal with. We sort of survived. We had as well a fantastic relationship with our landlords, the winemakers here in Larkhill, which helped us and reduced the lease of the restaurant. So during the smoke and fire season, and then also during the COVID lockdown. So what we done, obviously, as we are in a country, so there is no one really lives very next to each other. So we're not suburban, we're not CDB. So we try to do takeaways as well after the first week, and a delivery because it's very sort of, how can I say, far to drive for some people. The town, the closest town is around 6 minutes away from our restaurant, and obviously everything was shut down there as well. The pub done some takeaway for pickup. We done some takeaway, and we offered to the so-called neighbors or locals as well a free delivery, and which was good because first of all it gave me something to do during these days, and delivery people gave us as well a little bit a very good connection with our locals, and we had an amazing support from the locals as well. I mean, we have not done an amazing take up on takeaways, but we done probably every day, probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 orders during lunch and dinners, which we also sort of delivered. But for us, it was very important not to shut down. Quite a few small places here in Bungendore closed, and so we decided not to close and just hang in there and do something. We done some picnic baskets, Mother's Day hampers and things like that. So people were aware of that we still open, that we still operating, that we still exist. And so it has been, for us, it has been quite an interesting experience, and we said we are small enough so we could adapt things and do sort of what we want to do here. Since the restriction got slightly lifted in the beginning, it was 10 people you know, and for us again, we were small enough, and you know, we were fully booked the first 2 weekends. We done like 2 seatings for lunch, so 10 and 10. And I spoke to George before. You know, we are very fortunate that our restaurant has 3 different areas for diners, so we always had plenty of space, separate areas. So we have a deck, we have a veranda, and we have a main floor. So the restriction to have diners in the restaurant was even before that. You know, we always had plenty of space for people to sit. Now with the restriction to 50, it doesn't affect our restaurant anymore, because we cannot have more than 50 anyway. And this is the first weekend. It was a long weekend, and we had one of the best weekend ever since we took over that restaurant, which was just absolutely amazing. And the support, again, you know, some people said, Scott mentioned the support, some on his was not that good in some places and better in others. And for us, the support for locals, it was just absolutely outstanding. We have people came, you know, since we reopened, this is the 3rd weekend, we had some of the locals, they came 3 times, if it's for lunch, and brought friends. And we open as well for 2 nights on a Friday and Saturday, which we do just a set menu, a 5-course meal with matching wine. And this has been a little bit slow, but it has not, probably it's sort of the same as it was before the lockdown. And so the response was just unbelievable. We could not believe the positive response, and people were quite happy to come out. I think in our region as well, it has been, you know, a very long summer. People could not go out because of the smoke. And then was the lockdown. I think so people taking the opportunity to experience the backyard. When you talk to guests, it is amazing. You know, people say, oh, I lived for 20 years in Canberra, or I lived for 10 years here in the region, and we never came to the vineyard, or we never came to the restaurant. So I think the whole thing has been quite good, that people sort of realize, and you know, what can we do in our area, you know, to support, which was fantastic. You know, I'm not an expert what the future will bring. I mean, it's amazing how many experts we got since COVID-19 happening. You know, everybody, quite a few people become experts. But for me, I think for us, it's just doing what we done. I think Scott mentioned that before as well, but we do a smaller menu. We always had small menus, which I change, you know, frequently, because I'm doing the shopping, you know, go to the market. So we never had a huge menu, and people also understand, obviously, with our operation, that we cannot have, you know, 20 or so main courses or dishes on the menu. So it's quite a seasonal menu we do, especially for the dinner. And and people really appreciate it, that it is, you know, more or less, there's also fresh, and it's market produced from the local areas, the meat from the local butchers and things like that. So so it's, I think the support we have here is quite amazing. You know, we don't have face masks for the staff. We talk to the staff, and they're not comfortable to wear face masks. And also the guests, you know, what we had, the response was, you know, just enjoying socializing with their friends, coming out, not to cook something. And I think that is quite nice as well. So and yeah, we just keep on going. We're still doing little bit takeaway. I think we have 2-3 couples, elderly couples from the area, and they don't want to obviously drive, and in nighttime for us is quite dark around here, and kangaroos everywhere. So even delivery has been a little bit of a challenge, dodging the kangaroos. But because you know, some of these couples, they were one of the first to order takeaway from us during the lockdown. And so we also support them and said, no, you have ordered, you know, since we offered takeaway, and you have ordered every weekend dinner from us, even though our restaurant is open again, we continue deliver you the meals, you know, as much as we can, as long as we can. And so we continue with that as well. So we will see how we go. I know when we get too busy, maybe we need to stop some deliveries at certain times, but as long as we can manage, we keep on going with that as well.
Thank you. It's terrific.
And a good thing as well, what has been mentioned as well, you know, with staff, because we have a very, very small team. And I think even before the shutdown, we had some staff we could use in front of house and then as well back of house. And you know, that was a great thing as well, because when we looking for people, we said, look, you need to help us a little both, because on some days, you know, we need more help in the kitchen, other days, you know, or you in the kitchen and you also need to take out the plate, you know, and you need also to wash up dishes. So it is quite good. And as Scott mentioned as well, you know, it brings the team a little bit together as well. So, you know, front of house staff helping in the kitchen, they can talk much better about the food we do in the kitchen. So it has been a positive thing for us.
Thank you, Richard. That's terrific. I'm glad to see that. And I think, you know, basically, you know, Martin summed it up just now with a chat when he said from globalization back to community, which I think was a very good summary of what you're saying.
I call that.
It's over to Richard. Richard, if you can give us a brief view of, you know, how you see the crisis affecting your business. What have you done in terms of change? What do you think will change in the future? And give us a picture of your own personal, you know, and take on from, you know, a city restaurant. So, you know, we've got 4 different types of restaurants here, all in different cultures. So over to you, Richard.
Thank you, George. And thank you to everybody. And thank you for inviting me here today. Of course, Maisano's been here a long time. And we done the best we can to survive this crisis. It's quite a shock to the whole system. And I thought the first week, I recall, was a bit of a challenge for me because I didn't know what to do. In fact, on the Sunday night when the news came around, one of my customers came in and said, "Thank you for the last supper." And I replied, "Where are you going? Why is this your last supper?" He says, "I'm not going anywhere, but you are. They're shutting you down." And I said, "What?" So the following morning, of course, I realized that's what was happening. So we closed it down. I stayed 4 or 5 days. I couldn't figure out what to do. But rest assured, I didn't want to stay still. So what I did is move closer half of the restaurant down and just started to get takeaway in my head and worrying about getting a lot of organizations to see that, and was not going anywhere. So what I did is I contacted all my suppliers and I turned the restaurant to a grocer. So we started putting vegetables out, retail. We were doing transaction for $1.50. It didn't really matter what it was, but with social media and the local people here, they helped quite a lot. Of just a wonderful way to realize how wonderful local people supporting our venue here over the past 35 years. And what we did is we just keep going with that. Then I started organizing a lot of ready meals, which they've done really, really well. Wonderful dishes, just like we dish them out in the restaurant. Unfortunately, they had to be put in a container, but people accepted, understood what the problem was, and they were happy to carry on and purchasing all this produce. But it's been amazing for me. It was a complete turn. You know, sanitizing everybody. I think at one stage we had the police arriving twice because we're just too overcrowded. We couldn't control it. So it was a positive thing. Moving forward, I think it's quite a challenge to us is from now on. I saw some of the agenda, George, that you mentioned, where we're going or what to do or what it is. Look, the past is being supported very well across the board, I think, as far as the authority are concerned. And the job keeper will keep people on. But moving forward from there, I think it's very important for us to understand what the service is all about. We might discover something here. We cannot have large crowds of number now to a restaurant. You cannot break records and say, look, we serve 300 people for dinner. You know, I think those days are long gone. And you're coming to a realization that you need to, I like the idea of people coming back to the booking scenario and making sure that they're booking people so they can give you a lot more expression in the kitchen. As far as food is concerned, it's just more organized in that manner and trying to do the best we can. Sanitizing the bathrooms and keeping ourselves aware of, I think it's extremely important, not to put it in the back burner, to just keep this alive, be very vigilant and very precisely exactly what we're doing, be aware of our customers, you know, and trying to give them good service and trying to understand what's going on. So we might discover the service after all, it maybe has a good place over this to come back into power. Because for one little while there was just a little bit too fast and too quick. And I think as a chef, you know, we prefer to have a little bit more realistic timing to do the numbers and to be a bit more organized as far as the service is concerned, you know, and running the place a lot more clean and a lot more vigilant, I think is extremely important in all this aspect of the restaurants, you know. It's been quite a challenge in the business sectors, you know. I mean, of course, being cut off and finding finance to finance ourselves, it hasn't been an easy task. And we're still going through, as you can see, my desk still in a mess here. I haven't cleaned it all out yet after we changed everything. But I think we done well to do that. Instead of not doing anything, we've done something about it. I'm happy to keep the going meals, the grocery. I think it's very important. And of course, the prepared meal seems to have a bit of a feel there that I think in the future people come in and sort of say, look, I can't be bothered cooking tonight. Yes, I do have some lovely prepared meals by Maisano's and I'm happy to take them home. And I think it's very, very important to keep that up, for me anyway.
Terrific.
Yeah, that's why I see it.
All four of you have begged one question in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like the new takeaway millionaire will be, the new takeaway crisis will be the result of many more new millionaires in a different way in the restaurant industry. But what are you doing about the fact is that you know a lot about preparation of food. You know how to make an excellent meal. And now you hand it over to someone to deliver. What are you doing about making sure that your client is able to put justice of that preparation onto a plate? What sort of strategies are you doing there?
Yeah, that was one of my educational things. Let him know. I put an ossobuco on a beautiful ossobuco and I braced it very long. So of course, once that gets chilled and refrigerated and handed over to somebody's, which is going to eat it for dinner, the first question I asked, I said, how are you going to reheat this? Are you going to put it back in your microwave oven or you put it in your oven, you put it through a saucepan? She goes, I'll just chuck it in the microwave. And I said, don't do that. So it's nice if you could please put it in a saucepan, just add a half a glass of water, lower the temperature, and just go and drink a half a glass of wine, then come back and the thing will be ready for you to eat.
So you are relying on the verbal instructions, basically.
Well, it has to have some instruction on there. Yeah. Verbally, I think helps quite a lot.
What about some of our others panels? What strategies have you got to make sure that your product is landing up on the plate as it should do? From
our point of view, I did a video from day one. I was we wanted to deliver a fine dining meal. So the whole meal is demonstrated as to how to finish off. We didn't think we could deliver that hot. So everything goes cold and everything needs to be plated and finished off. It's not hard. If it's been sous vide cooked, it needs to go back into a bath of water. But I've always worked out a way that they can just pour a kettle of hot water over a sous vide bag, let it sit with the lid on for 20 minutes and then give it a sear. And people are loving it. I mean, they're thinking.
So have you done a sort of a library of different videos that you?
Yeah. Every week there's a new menu, and every week there's a video that accompanies it. 3-course menu plus appetizer plus bread and sesame butter. So it's a complete meal.
What about Daniel? What about you? You said you were delivering, but you just can't deliver. Say goodbye. There's your food.
Well, we obviously the delivery we done was hot meals, and it took a while to get a few decent takeaway containers. Who looks not chuck everything in one plastic container, but that was the challenge, obviously, because there was not much around in Canberra because everything was used up in Sydney. So Canberra, we couldn't get, it was very difficult to get anything. But we managed to organize something. And so we also talked to the people, or we had, how to reheat. As I mentioned, we had one older couple and they went for a weekend away and they want to have the meals for 2 days. So I sort of tri-backed things and explained it to them, how to do it. Give them a little bit like we call it a cheat sheets, how to reheat things up. The menu was quite easy to do so. And so it was it's nice to it's good to talk to people how to reheat it and things like that. Even the conversation is
on in-house training for their staff and how to handle takeaway food, how to hand it over to clients. Anybody doing anything about
well, the people who handle the food to our guests was always my wife and me. But what we done, quite a few of them. They had little tables, so they had like a sort of a box in front of their door, and we put the bag there, and knocked on the door and asked and sort of waved goodbye as when they opened the door.
Okay, what about you, Scott? What about in your large conglomerate?
For us, we did mostly sort of hot meals actually. And I didn't have time to do videos like Steve. I did some other kind of videos, actually, a couple of funny, crazy ones. But for our online stuff now with Providore and stuff, so the team have been setting that all up. So it's all online. And so you go and you choose what you want. And the first 3 months we did all sort of ready sort of hot meals, like takeaway in bags, come in, collect and go. And we had times at like 5, 5:15, 5:30, 5:45 through. But now with the Providore, that is ready to eat, ready to heat and ready to cook. So there's online stuff that talks you through each process. But our next stage will be to do little videos where we talk through and plate and dress the dish. Yeah, and now that we've moved into the cold or the pickup or the sort of customers engaged at home. Yeah, so that's our next step.
Okay. Paul, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask the panel?
No, I mean, basically, it's just terrific to see that people have evolved. I mean, I'm sort of mostly in the club space, and they haven't been able to evolve as quickly because a lot of them are too large to do anything. But yeah, it's certainly those that have done amazing work.
Okay, Martin, any comments? Any questions? Any additions?
No, same as Paul. I think it was really great to hear that people are flexible. They're looking for solutions, adapting new strategies, and I think that's the way forward. How is it going to look like in a year time? I don't think anyone can predict that. So I think we really need to stay flexible and find what actually clients really appreciate and want. So it's all about value proposition at the moment.
Okay. Renee, any comments? Hello? No, not there.
Yep, no, I'm all good. I've actually probably been a customer for most of you guys. I love the COVID, going out there and getting our restaurants that would normally booked out, that you can go in and get a meal on a Friday or Saturday night. So I've loved it. I've loved the flexibility as a consumer. So yeah.
Paul, any shape or sorry, Athol, any comments?
No, I guess, yeah, like echoing everyone else's sentiment. I think the key there is flexibility and listening to the consumer and looking after each other and seeking new ways to be viable. And yeah, just I guess it's just going to be a bit more of a roller coaster journey for a little while longer. And yeah, that's just adaptability. So I think, yeah, it's been a really great insight. And yeah, I share everyone else's views.
And how about you, Sarah? Have you ordered any takeaway?
I have, only a couple of times from a local
What was your
business.
experience as a client?
Sorry?
What was your experience as a client?
Obviously, I was quite aware of hygiene when I was in there, sort of watching that they were wearing gloves and following normal sanitisation processes. I wasn't expecting people to be going overboard with their sanitisation processes. And yeah, so I was quite happy with the meals I received. But listening to some of the innovative ideas that I've heard, it's been really quite amazing. Especially the one that Scott mentioned about actually creating a boxed meal that you take home and prepare yourself, and a video that goes with it. I think that's brilliant. So I think there'll be some really wonderful ideas that actually stick that come out of this. You know, those providor ideas and the you know,
the new millionaire will be the takeaway king.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I'd thank the panel, Steve, Scott, Daniel, and Richard. You've given us really good to think about. The videos, I'm sure, will be popular. They'll be online by Friday, and we'll be promoting them to make sure that we get just as many people watching them, and I'm sure we will do. Thank you very, very much for your participation and your contribution. The next one is all about technical training, because we're going to have a panel of 4 educationalists on the online talking about the future in terms of maybe the curriculum, the training model, and what will happen there. That'll be an interesting one. We've got someone from university, someone from VET, someone from TAFE, and we've also got someone from the Industry Reference Committee who are people who are basically responsible for curriculum development. So that should be interesting. Are there any other comments before I close the session? Anybody else like to make any comments now?
I just like to say good luck to everyone. Yeah, to all the team, to all the boys, everyone in your teams. I know it's been a crazy way, but yeah, but lots to listen and learn, and thank you very much. I've learned a little bit myself as well during this. Yeah, not just about what I'm doing and we're doing, but as a person, as a team, and just listening to you guys and girls as well, talking about everything. So look, I know the industry's bleeding and it's fucking tough for everybody out there, but keep going. And I hope to see you all on the other side in 3, 6, 12 months, going well.
I can see the ones who are going to be on the other side. That's for sure. Well, guys and girls, thanks very much. Au revoir till the next time. Don't forget, you can go online and I'll send you out the details of this particular video as we put it online. And you can look at the other ones, and some of them have got some really fantastic ideas. People who have attended those have really had some really fantastic comments, haven't they? Sarah, would you agree with that at all?
Yeah, definitely.
They really have got something to learn from every one of them. So, you've made a big contribution to the industry, and you'll be heard by a lot of people. So, au revoir, look after yourself, God bless, and keep them takeaways going.
Thanks, George.
Thanks,
George.
Right,
Everyone take care.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
See you.